It's a small investment, and it's amazing how just buying a cup of coffee.
I think is worth someone's soul.
Yeah.
I think so. But you're going to put a dollar value on it. But
Yeah. Well, it depends. Starbucks or Tim's.
or McDonald's too. I mean, it depends on your budget, right?
How then we all work. We spend probably a third of our lives working or around that time. That's a huge opportunity for Christians to live out the Great Commission at their workplace.
We spend more time with our coworkers than we do with our own families.
They're like your second family. It's your family away from your family. And so I think I've wrestled with this personally. Maybe you both have too. Like what does it practically mean to live out our faith in the workplace? Especially in this day and age. And
I mean, I think I think for me personally, like how I approach that is, number one is through relationship building. Forming a friendship with a coworker, or you're just looking for those opportunities to talk to them. But I also, sometimes you can do a random act of kindness, and maybe that can be an opportunity for you to talk to them further. Like, I've bought coffees or gone to Second Cup and bought everyone in the front office like a beverage, just random, and
that's a great idea.
And doing things and just I just walk around and ask people, hey, what do you want? And I go and get it, and that's just a simple, very random act of kindness with no expectation of anything in return. And you hope that maybe you've planted a seed somewhere for a conversation.
It's a small investment, and it's amazing how just buying a cup of coffee.
I think is worth someone's soul.
Yeah.
I think so. But you're going to put a dollar value on it. But
yeah. Well, it depends. Starbucks or Tim's.
Or McDonald's too. I mean, it depends on your budget, right? I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Might would entice them with the more expensive stuff, but
yeah. And you may want to give them the best. Give them the absolute best.
100%. Yeah.
I think Starbucks, in my opinion, I don't buy it often, but it's more of like a treat to me because it feels like the Rolls Royce of.
100% is, and it gives you that extra boost. So I would say stick with the Starbucks. I'm going to do the random act of kindness with the coffee, but anyway.
I kind of agree that, but one thing that I think we can really actually look at is how did Christ interact with people? Because Christ, never necessarily do we see him in a position where he is in with a worker or a coworker or someone, right? Like he is always the one going around teaching.
And he also looked for the people that, like, his first magnet was always the downtrodden, was the people that were suffering, right? Like with a disease or with a demon or with there's so many countless examples. Jesus, he heads straight for the people that everyone else in society wants to shun, come on, the tax collector.
Oh yeah, no, and it's
Zacchaeus? Zacchaeus.
Well, Zacchaeus was one of them.
He's one of the tax collectors. I think probably dealt with more than that.
I guess he was a short little man. He had to get up on the tree.
He was sitting in a tree, and then probably gone on someone's shoulders and went to his house. But
it's you look at it, but there's two kind of interactions in which you can kind of look at this is Christ's interaction with the disciples, and it was because. That is probably a very good example because these are people that he saw day in, day out, every day. They saw him through everything that happened. They saw him at the highs. They saw him at the lows. And
I mean, they couldn't even stay awake when he told them to stay awake while they're praying. I mean, come on.
But it was just...
Where's the discipline here?
And in that case, how did he discipline them? Or was it through grace? Like, he reprimanded them, and then he's like, okay, now stay up. And then he goes back and does it, and then nothing else really happens with them, right? Because, they do fall asleep again. But it's grace and living your life as though, or this is the whole thing, living your life as if you're Christ. So if people can see the love of Christ in you, and they will want to see that. If they see the joy of Christ in your life, they're going to ask you about it. So, again, we are so used to happiness and happiness and happiness. And what do you strive for in work? It's, well, happiness, but you also strive for success and all those other things. And it's just like, we are called at work to live every day like we are working for Christ. I don't do that. I am horrible at that.
Yeah, you can get better at it. You can get better at it.
But that is what I am called to do.
Well, and
It looks like you're going for a Starbucks run tomorrow.
hope his staff isn't like a staff of like
Ooh,
his
yeah, I don't
department's
know.
not like 15 people.
I don't know. It might be one expensive bill, but it'll be worthwhile.
Yeah.
it'll
Okay,
be
do I have to
totally
do the
worthwhile.
guys in the back too?
Yeah, you do.
Because-
Sure, you do.
You got to reach the ends of the
Come
earth.
on, man.
Dude.
Yeah, ends of the earth means ends of the end of the warehouse, right? End of the office property now.
Oh, man.
Oh man.
This could be
You
expensive
realize,
tomorrow.
like, that's just about like 100 coffees, right?
That's okay. You can afford it. You're doing good.
Just put it on the card.
Yeah, on the credit card.
How
too.
much money do you think I got make? I don't have that kind of money.
Oh, come on.
I am blessed. I am not that blessed.
The beauty is they'll ask you that question, where are you getting this money from? And you'll gladly share the good news.
I don't know.
You could say
That'll
you
be
got
my
it,
answers. I don't know where I'm
you
getting
could
this
just say
money.
you got it from your Bitcoin miner, but it's crypto. So. But,
No, I can't say that because then I would be lying. So don't tell me to lie.
Jesus may be flipping tables.
yeah,
All this trading going on.
too much trading. Yeah, Bitcoin's the top.
money
of that,
money
so.
changers, you know.
Yeah, and money changers, just the grubby hands.
But
Let's
like,
get into it.
so this is an example that I have from work. Is there? So the office I work in is kind of very unique in certain aspects, or at least I find it unique because I've never worked in an office like this. But basically, I think there are at least 4 or 5 different value systems that I know of represented within the office that I work. And so there are conversations where I come up and I go, okay, I know that this is what you believe in. I know the name of it. I don't know anything else about it. Please tell me about it.
Well, and I think we're getting into this stage now, with today's climate. It's a great thing Jesus modeled faith in action, because now with workplaces, it's getting harder and harder to share verbally your faith. And so maybe not all, but definitely it's some people are just not in a position to. You want to, but you really actually can't. You will get in trouble or get fired, or like worst case scenario. But this is where I think it's a beautiful avenue where if you can't share it verbally, what an opportunity to do it by action, where your actions can, and that adds to your point, even just buying the coffees, like you're speaking a language where maybe on the surface it's just coffee, but they look at that and it's like, wait a second, this isn't right. I have the strong conviction that as Christians, we ought to be the hardest workers in the workplace, not in the sense of being a workaholic, but working hard in such a way where I firmly believe this. Our coworkers are watching us, whether we believe it or not. They are looking at us and what we say, what we do. And if we're the hardest workers in the workplace, they will see and they will take it notice and they will wonder and they will ask. And if that means it's a conversation outside the workplace, fantastic. But I'm thankful that if it's not verbal, we do have the other option of action.
I can tell you this, the person who works the front desk at where I work knows exactly who is willing to stay and do overtime and who's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's not from talking to them. That's from watching them day after day of when they leave the office.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I kind of agree with you. Being hardworking and I frequently am working an hour past when I get paid. That's just the demands of my job, right? But I don't look for recognition for that. I don't look for. It's just part of the job. It's what I got to do. I got to work hard. Got to be there.
Well, and I was always told too, like we ought to work that whoever your superior is, your boss is, work in a way that it's as if you're working for Jesus. Even if you're mopping a floor, if your job is to mop this floor, if you knew that Jesus was going to walk on this floor, you would mop it in a way where it's like you want to do the absolute best. And I know it's not the best analogy, but it's like I think it's the mindset of, not for public recognition, but it's our motivation behind it.
And every job is important. One of my former bosses once told me just a great piece of advice. She was just like, Nathan, never let anyone tell you that what you do for work isn't good enough. And that has always stuck with me. So they equal in importance. There's no,
Let's put it this way. There are some jobs that are very much despised or looked down upon because people look at that and they say, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. Well, let's put it this way. One of those jobs is sanitation, and one of the parts of that is the people in sanitation make sure that the water that comes out of the tap is clean and healthy for you to drink. If they're not doing their job properly, guess what? There's one group of people who can take out cities at a time if they start messing things up.
And that's right. That's why every job is important. Imagine if tomorrow in all of our offices, imagine if all of our custodial staff all quit. So garbages aren't being cleaned. Carpets aren't being vacuumed. Nothing's being cleaned. Nothing's being done. I think you'd have a lot of irritated people. Maybe not right away, not that day, but within a few days, if they all had to do it. Ooh.
Dude, I have some people that are very strict about how they or what standards they have for the custodial people. They would notice right away.
They'd notice real fast if everyone just went on strike.
I think of that Simpsons episode where Homer was, don't worry.
The garbage man can.
The garbage man can do it. And it was like the cleanest of everything. But then the budget was completely out of whack.
Simpson, you idiot. You spent your entire year's budget in a month.
Like he overspent. And so if we didn't pay our garbage men,
that'd be a problem.
we noticed the difference really fast.
That would pile
how important,
up real fast.
Oh boy.
That stink. that stink they'd be ringing off the hook there.
There are how many plagues associated with the fact that people live together and they didn't take out their garbage properly?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I think this just shows how broken our world is, that we've placed the importance of people's jobs based on their title, their job description, their salary, and it just shows all the more how in the kingdom, I don't know if we will have jobs. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But
I think we're going to be kept busy.
I think if the attorney's a long time.
That's not retirement,
Yeah, attorney's a pretty long time. So, I mean, to think that if there was such a thing as custodians in heaven, it wouldn't make a difference what title you have.
Isn't that what the angels are?
Those talk about guys that work overtime. The angels have got it in. Well, I'm sure their time sheets are just like, I don't even want to know how long they are.
Well, they don't need to sleep, right?
No, they don't, but they still,
Tom, for you, like at your workplace, have you thought about what kind of practicality can be involved living out your faith in the workplace? Do you have any examples to share for the time you've been at work?
Well, see, with that, in the way that my workspace is kind of designated out is actually, so we have multiple levels in our office, and I'm actually on the ground floor just because of the nature of my job, not because I have a fancy position. But everyone that's kind of on that ground floor with me knows my belief system, at least. And so now, in some ways, I have it easy because there are multiple people with that belief system that I work with. So interacting like that and stuff like that, in some ways, I think it's almost made it too easy for me. But it's also been really nice because there are times where I've struggled with certain things, and there are people at work that I can lean on, be like, hey, like this is what I'm going through, like through life's issues, and they are very accommodating through that. But it's also like there are times where, like I was helping a coworker out, and it was just a very interesting situation how it turned out to be, because I was helping them move something with my truck, and I didn't necessarily expect it at the time, but they were actually riding in my truck with me at the time. I had a very interesting conversation with them because I was like, okay, so they are an immigrant. And I was like, okay, so what is your religion? And it was, well, it's this. And then I'm like, okay, how can you explain your religion to me? That was a very interesting conversation because he had a very hard time explaining his religion to me. And there's another guy that...
Did he say what is...
yeah.
What is he?
Well, he did explain what it was and kind of how what he believed in the religion. It's one of those religions that there are multiple different things that you can believe in. But it's even like one of the guys I work with is a non-practicing Muslim. And I was like, what do you mean you're a non-practicing Muslim? Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
You're either practicing or not. I never understood that.
Well, they might observe that. Well, I think what they might mean by that, I'm just speculating, but they might mean that they observe they might observe the important.
Well, no, it means that they grew up in the Middle East and then they immigrated here.
Yeah. Well,
so they don't necessarily fully believe in everything, but
they might follow the traditions of their family.
Well,
right?
It's because it was so seeped in the culture.
Yeah.
It's like, like a good comparison is the difference between Judaism and Jewish culture. It's like, in some cases, you can't separate that out. Like, Jewish culture is the same as Judaism. And so people who practice Jewish culture might not believe in Judaism or might not follow Judaism, but because they're following their Jewish culture, they do the same things. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that progression in that, because it's just like, I'm not trying to be like, I think you're wrong. I think what you believe is wrong. It's like, yeah, I do think what they believe is wrong, but it's just like, how am I going to show them that I am interested in them as a person and that I care more about them as a person than what they believe in?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, what you're doing is wrong. Okay, fine. Like, I'm sorry, if I approached everyone who I knew and be like, this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing this, I wouldn't be talking to people, because people are like, no, you're just not friendly and you're not a nice person and I don't want to spend time with you.
I would say it's such simple advice, yet I found it to be quite profound, at least in my workplace. And I think this can translate to any workplace, to be honest, but it's so simple. It's to just practically live out your faith in a small way. Just get to know them. And I think, and you kind of touched on that too with your coworker. You got to know him. You were asking about what his religion was, what he believes in. Like, that's getting to know. And I think it's so simple. Yeah, people love to talk about themselves. Maybe not everyone, but more often than not, people love to talk about themselves. I don't mean that in an arrogant, prideful way, but I think there's something about just, human interaction when you're...
The less talking you're doing, the better.
Well, and they can tell there's a sense that you genuinely care about them. And if the second greatest commandment is to, love your neighbor as yourself, whoever you're interacting with, those are your neighbors. Maybe not physically right beside you, but they're your neighbors, and part of loving them is getting to know them, and and the more you do that, it actually builds trust. So then you can actually have deeper conversations.
Yeah, and I think too, just to kind of bounce off what you're saying a little bit, when you get to know people in your workplace, your coworkers become friends, and you find out they're going through a hard time, or someone's dying in their family from cancer, or like whatever. It's interesting how, just from my experience, how open people have been when I've just said, well, I will pray for you and your family. Like you say, I'm going to pray for you. People do acknowledge that as an act of love, and they appreciate that. They might not necessarily believe in God, or they might not necessarily believe in what we believe, but there is an acknowledgement there that they acknowledge that you are trying to love them. You're trying to care for them, right? That, I think, it's just kind of interesting.
Interesting when you hear certain people be like, because that's one way. Like, if you are someone who has a hard time talking to people. And it's funny because, like, to me, I'm like, once you say it out loud, it's like, it seems kind of obvious, but there are certain things that people respond to. People respond to openness and direct. So if if you can try and show people that you're not trying to change who they are or anything, like you generally are just there and present in the moment. People who you can say hi to people, a lot of people will say hi back unless something crazy is going on. But if you really want to start a conversation with people, one of the best two ways is asking them a question. It can be a very general question, typically more of a question on, what they're doing or whatnot, or complimenting them. You want to start a conversation with anybody? Try doing those two things.
Yeah. I mean, and I just love the established, and like you said, like there's an established trust, but yeah, even when it's someone that actually doesn't believe what you believe, it's just the fact that you got to know them, and like you were saying, like I'm not thinking any less of you. I'm not saying I disagree with your beliefs. I mean, inherently inherently we do, but the fact that you're not even bringing up any of those topics, you're just generally getting to know them, and they're like, oh wow, even though I believe this, it's not what he believes, but he's still willing to just hang out with me, talk with me. And I know it's kind of challenging, because I know some people would say in the workplace, you got to keep the work and your personal lives separate. Like some people say there's no such thing as friendships with your coworkers. I think the Christian worldview would disagree with that.
Or it's called no friendship with your boss, right?
Yeah, I think
right?
maybe
Or
that's
no friendship with your boss.
Yeah.
I have a coworker that I have known, or I started working with them before they got married. So because of that, if you look at it on how much time he has actually spent with working with me versus time spent with his wife, he has spent more time with me than he has with his wife. And like, he got married like shortly after we started working together, so it's pretty close.
It says something.
But it's just like, you look at that, and like, there are statistics that you can choose it, but I'm assuming that he sleeps like 2 hours or 8 hours a night. You are in all these opportunities that are all around us, and we are constantly under scrutiny. Well, what if I'm like a random person in the middle of the street? Like, no one's going to be paying attention to me. Yeah, some people are. And people will remember you. So, yeah, there has to be grace there on when you have times where you're not doing your best, when you're acting out. But it's also, you are called to live a grace-filled, love-filled life.
Being consistent.
And being consistent.
Being
is
godly
the
consistent.
hardest thing out there.